Let's finish our inventories user interface. Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. Welcome to the Mentor Code Lab. Today we will finish our screen handler class with the addition of the slots for the inventory, and finally we can check that inventory in the game. Now keep in mind, whenever you have inventories inside the game, you need to track those slot numbers because in more than one place you will have to work with them. So which one of these slots should be indexed 0? Personally, I prefer the most important slot to be indexed 0. That is our input slot. Then the second most important slot as the input would be indexed 1. I personally prefer to keep the output slots at the end of the stack. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, then the 5 and 6. Now you see that again, the output result of the crafting, I put it 1 ahead of the fluid. This way of indexing helps me to find the ingredient as fast as possible if I want to loop through all the slots. You may ask, hey, when you are looping through the slots, and that is our quick move method. So I will read the inputs first, then the upgrade. We will take a look at that later. So to track these numbers, the best way is to come into your block entity and have more static fields. So public static final integer. This is gem input slot equals to 0. Input slot for raw gems. And public static final int water bucket slot equals to 1, and that is the input slot for water bucket. Then we have public static final int, this will be energy upgrade slot equals to 2, public static final int speed upgrade slot equals 3, and then public static final int, this will be fluid upgrade slot equals to 4. Then we have public static final output slot equals to 5, and let's see, water slot, no, this will be empty bucket and slot for empty bucket storage. Okay, now that we have these slot numbers, I can come back into a screen handler and finish whatever I want to do. The very first thing is that I want to be able to track the inventory inside this class all the time. So I will say private static final inventory, and that would be simple inventory, and we call it inventory inside our constructors. Now remember, the main constructor is the one that has block entity, and as you see, I just kept 2 of these. We will say this.inventory equals to not that, goddammit, block entity dot get inventory, and it shouldn't be static. Okay, now that we have the inventory, we can do stuff. In the constructor, we will say this.inventory dot unopen by the player dot player. This means that, hey, the player opened the inventory, call the unopen method for the inventory. Now, if you look at the unopen method, it's totally empty, but the thing is that when you learn about mixins, you will understand that people can inject their code into this vanilla inventory class. And yes, the simple inventory is not overriding it, okay? So you should be prepared to be able to call it all the time, even if there is no code in the vanilla. After using the unopen, we have the unclose one. Now, as you see, unclose has its own method, but unopen doesn't, because the unopen should be called from the constructor all the time. After calling the super, we said this.inventory.unclose on the player. Okay, are we done and are we ready to implement and add our slots? Honestly, yes. To implement our slots, it's easy to just keep the width and height of these slot numbers, but honestly, I'm not gonna use any static number on top because that's irrelevant. That's just something you can do it if you want to, but I personally am okay. Now keep in mind, this first slot is crafting recipe slot. However, it should be dedicated to raw gems, okay? So we say this.add slot new. Now I will use predicate slot from my library. Now, I don't add that library to Maven yet. So if I want to, I can just go with new slot, and this.inventory, the index is the gem cleaner be dot gem input slot. Now for the X and Y, I need to read them from Photoshop. On the second monitor is 1, 13, and 29. So 1, 13, and 29. Now this is irrelevant, and that should be it. Now this is a slot, okay? However, you will see that this slot will accept any item. If you want to have the dedicated slot that accepts only few items, go back and take a look at the original screen handler video. There I'm showing you how to write that predicate slot and how you can have different slots that are dedicated to do something different. After this one, I will just keep going with the new slot. Now instead of gem input, it's water bucket slot because that's index 1, and it will be at 40 and 18. So 40, 18. Then we have energy upgrade that is at 8 and 28. Two more upgrades, all on the 8 for the X, but one is 53, the other one is 80. The middle one will be speed, the bottom one will be fluid. Then we have our outputs, so copy this two more times. One will be at 113 and 74, 113 and 74. This will be the output index, output slot, and this will be empty bucket slot. The empty bucket slot will be at 40 and 86. Just by doing it, we have our slots. Now, if I want to, I can run the game right now and give it a test. Let's actually do it. Now, remember previously, if you had any block in the name of Gen Cleaner in the word, don't open them. They don't have inventory. So you need to put a new block down and open it. Hopefully we won't get anything else, but we got a null point exception. Okay, let's take a look. Where did I do something wrong? Line 71. On the screen renderer, it says, call the super. Okay, it says this dot inventory is null. Where is that this dot inventory? We don't have it here. I think, wait a minute. So this is interesting. It shouldn't come to line 71 because line 71 is just calling the super, and the super has nothing to do with the inventories. Let me see. Draw background, draw foreground, then the super. Okay, I think I found something. We have a conflict here. You see that it says this dot add slots on the abstract screen handler. So when I come back to my own screen handler, I'm calling the super first. At this time, the inventory is null, and we are adding the slots to null. So here's a question. Can we just put them on top? No, we can't. So how can we fix this? The way is that we cut it from here and we go back into the add slots and paste there, okay? And you see that it's yelling at us because now the inventory can't be final. But this way, when we are calling the super, we are setting the inventory from the block entity, and the super is already setting the block entity before calling the add slots. Now, if I want to, I can put something there in the super, but honestly, I think it's irrelevant right now. This way, it should work. Let's try it again and see if we solve the problem. Now take note, it goes into the screen renderer on the debug message and it's yelling at you at the super line on the render. That does not help anyone. However, you should be aware that something is null. And following the logic, you see that, okay, I'm setting the block entity. I'm calling add slots. It will come back here and it will read this dot inventory. Okay, guess what? At that time, here inventory is null because we were calling this add slot from the super. And after the super, we were setting the inventory. Well, that was wrong. So when you are adding the slots, you need to set the inventory properly, and then you need to be aware of everything else. Of course, as I said, I can add a method here called add inventory, but I'm keeping it there because honestly, I will have an extension for this screen handler when we come to the library for the J inventory, and you will see that instead of abstract screen handler, I would use inventory screen handler, and we will fix that problem there. So single player play. Of course, I will break the block and replace it again, just to be safe. The block now should have the inventory, but I want to be sure that we are properly setting it and opening it. And guess what? We have our input slot, output slot, fluid slot. Every slot is working. Now let's get few of these like so. I will put it inside input slot. It will stay there. The bucket slot will accept it, the energy, and so on and so forth. So remember, we have 1, 8, then 31 and halfway through. Of course, I will be able to put 1 into output slots. I shouldn't be able to do that, but right now I'm able to do that. Close the inventory, it drops to the floor. But This was the thing that I dropped on the floor myself. So let's keep it there. The items are sitting in the inventory. And here's the critical test. Close the game, save and close, then go back to the blocks and let me drop these, open it. The items should stay exactly where you had put them. And final test, break the block, the items are not dropping on the floor. That is the wrong thing that happened. Okay, so let's go with the gem cleaner. Let's get few of these items and then put the gem cleaner, open it. You see that shift click is working because of the quick move. Okay, and I will want to break the blocks. Let's go with the survival mode. There we go. And let's give ourselves a pickaxe. So give at P, that's player, a pickaxe. And a diamond pickaxe would work. And one. So if I break the block right now, the block is broken, but the items are not dropped on the floor. Let's follow the logic and see what did I miss here. If this state is of blah. So to make things work, I will put a marker there. I will go into debug mode right now because on a state replaced should work. The only way that I see it may fail is one of these two if conditions, honestly. And this one should work. This one is interesting. Let's track them and see what we have. Okay, let's remove that one and play. Let's put a block down. And honestly, I don't care what I put there. Just break the block. No, I can't do that. Okay, let's go with the creative and let's have something. Let's put some of it there and then let's break the block. Okay, we got here. Now, this state is actually the gem cleaner. That was the previous state. We already know that. Let's run one line. The new state is air. Okay, so we should be okay with this line of code. So let's move it to the second monitor and we run it. You see that we got into there because the state is not air. Okay, now here's the question. Word.get block entity at pause. This failed. This is wrong. Okay, let's take a look how to solve that one now. Let's break it into two lines. So I will say var be equals to word.get block entity at pause, and then I want to check if be is instance of something. The reason I'm doing it is that I want to put the breakpoint here and see what I have as the be. Let's run the game again. Okay, let's break it. So go to creative mode and break. Default there. Of course, I want to move my instance of the game to the second monitor. And here we see that be is null. That makes actually sense because apparently it's happening after the breaking of the block. This will be a problem. This will be a big problem. Okay, apparently things has changed between different versions of Minecraft. And if I put a block and put anything in it, and if I break it, you see that the items are on the ground. Now, what did I change is that I moved the content from onState replaced to onBreak. And because we are calling the onBreak now, we are making sure that we are breaking the block actually. So we don't need to check the state and it should work like charm. That is the end of the inventory handling for the block entity. However, as I said, we have problem with this part. Let's see how we can fix this part now. If we make these inline classes, if we override can insert, now we can handle the things that we want. Now gem stack will need us to see if the stack dot is in the tag. Now the tag, I don't think I have it from the reference, and no, not that. Dot, let's see, what do we have? Gem, Ruby gem, Sapphire gem blocks. Okay, I need to add something called raw gem items, and we will handle that later. So if it's raw gem items, then yes, we can insert it. For the water bucket, we say can insert, and all we want to do is to check if the stack dot is of items dot water bucket. As simple as that. The energy upgrade, speed upgrade, and fluid upgrade, actually I will comment them because I don't have those upgrades yet as the items. And the output slot can insert, we should return false. And this one again can insert should return false. Now, the only problem that I have is that I can't have these raw gem items right now. So let's tweak it. Let's say it's gems and, for example, ruby gem. Why not? So that we can run the game. And now the only item that should be able to put inside the input slot should be the ruby gem. And let's see if that works. Okay, if I go into the game right now, none of the items in my inventory should be able to sit inside the block. Let's put the block down. Let's click, and I'm shift clicking, and as you see, it's not moving anywhere inside the inventory. Okay, so it's not behaving. Now let's get a water bucket and a ruby gem. If I open, the ruby gem sits properly and the water bucket finds its way properly. Now, if I want to put the ruby gem, no matter how many times I click, it won't work. Not here, not here. And I already removed these, so they won't work. The water bucket will not sit anywhere other than the proper place. So now I have an easy way of putting items back and forth inside this inventory. However, our job is not finished yet. So in the next video, I will come back and I will move the block entity and the handler toward using my own libraries, and the same thing for the block, because as I said, we have this drop contents. We don't need to do it manually ourselves. If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.